news in our associations, and today we are going to focus more on some specific examples from Africa. And we're really excited to have Carmen with us. As many of you know, Carmen has been working with CIPE for nearly 20 years, and she has been a senior consultant working with the CIPE Romania office as well as CIPE Africa, and she has been a integral part of CIPE Africa's transition to doing a lot of our work virtually, and is actually the one who helped design our survey that many of you have probably seen to assess the impact of COVID-19 on associations and chambers in Africa. So we're really grateful for all of the work that Carmen has done for us, and we're excited to have her join today. And so just a few ground rules for today. First is that today's presentation will be recorded. We encourage participation from everybody. And there's two ways that everybody can participate. The first is using the Q&A feature, which you can see at the bottom of your screen. As we go, please feel free to write in your questions, and we'll actually have some time to stop in the middle of this presentation to answer those questions, as well as time at the end of this presentation to answer those questions. You can also use the raise your hand feature, which I saw Bruna was testing out, and that's if you have something that you want to say, you're welcome to jump in at the appropriate time, and we'll allow you to speak. And since we have smaller numbers today because of our technical difficulties, depending on what Carmen would like, we can make this a bit more conversational as well. But without further ado, we're really happy that you can join us, and I will turn this over to Carmen to start us off.
Thank you very much, Michael. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be back, and thank you for your patience and for staying with us. We experienced some difficulties, but now we are finally together, and I'm excited about today's session. As Michael said, this is the second part of a series of webinars talking about revenue. And as most of you, if not everybody, was here also last time, we discussed, if you remember, about sustainability. We discussed about the sustainability pyramid and how to achieve sustainability. And one of the key ideas that I think is relevant when talking about achieving sustainability is diversification of revenue streams. And of course, we looked at some ideas for tiered dues and membership benefits. And we also looked at some examples from various associations from various places, Africa and elsewhere. What are they doing? What strategies they have adopted? How are they reaching out to members to encourage them to pay dues at this time when the economy has been affected because of the pandemic? And today we will continue focusing on programs and services, and how associations can raise money from those. We also heard some great examples last time from various organizations in Africa. And we will continue. I hope we will hear from you today, and or I will also introduce some other examples. This format of webinar is a bit how should I say, for a trainer, for a presenter, you want to see your participants, and you want to be able to look at their reactions and to respond and to engage. So I feel like my freedom of movement is a bit limited in this format. So what I would like to ask you is to please let us know if you have an idea, if you have a comment. If you like an idea, let us know. If you have a comment or a question, please let us know. I would like to share with you, first of all, some of the findings from last time. Michael, if we can go to the pie charts. So remember last time we conducted a quick online poll during the webinar, and one of the questions was about the revenue that associations lost and expect to lose this year. And from the poll that we conducted, I'm sad to say that almost half of the participants expect to see their association this year lose revenue between 51 and 75%, which is huge. And there's another 26% who expect to lose almost all their revenue. So really worrying signs. This finding, you can say this is a small pool, so perhaps it's not relevant. We are just looking at a few examples. At the same time, as you know, I think CIPE has conducted an online survey, and we have today some of the preliminary findings. The survey is still on. The deadline is the 19th of June, so we can still get more results, and what I'm going to present in a moment can change depending on how many associations are going to respond in the next couple of days and what their responses are. But what we see in that survey is unfortunately confirming, aligned with what we have seen in our poll 2 weeks ago when we conducted the first webinar. If we can go to the next one, please, Michael. So in terms of expectations for this year, we see again that close to 50% of organizations that participated in the survey until now expect to see a significant decrease in revenues, and another 20% expect there will be they will see a little decrease, a small decrease. So overall, this gives us what, 2/3 of associations, 68%, 2/3 are going to see the revenue affected, which is quite a lot. And we also see that 11% expect their revenue to increase a lot. So there is also hope. There is also good news. As I said, these are preliminary findings, but I think they confirm the results that we got in the poll that we conducted 2 weeks ago. And of the respondents who said that they expect their revenue to decrease this year, if we can go to the next one, please. Again, what is the magnitude of the loss? Again, we see significant losses are expected by, again, half or almost half of the participants. 17% they expect to lose almost all their revenues this year, and another 28%, more than half. In this context, I think it is very appropriate that we talk about revenues and programs and services, and hopefully you can get some ideas about how to turn this situation into perhaps an opportunity to come up with services that your members will appreciate and be willing to pay for. If we can please go to the next one. As I said at the beginning of the session last time, we talked about sustainability and what are some of the ingredients of sustainability. And of course, in the top are programs and services. One thing perhaps that I should have mentioned when talking about the survey findings, once the deadline, after June 19th, of course, CIPE will process the results, and a more comprehensive report will be made available. For now, I thought it's relevant to bring up even some preliminary findings from that survey. So programs and services, one of the ingredients of organizational sustainability and financial sustainability. So let's talk about those. If we can go to the next one, please. I have listed here some of the major types of programs, products, and services that associations develop and provide to their members and to their communities and to the business community overall. I'm not going to go into details here. I think this is nothing new. We all know these things. Perhaps one other type of program which I did not include here, some of you, especially multi-sector organizations, could find interesting is member-to-member discount programs, where members, a number of members offer their services at a discounted rate for the other members of the association for a limited period of time. And it can be a discount on a consulting fee, or you know, discounted rate for a publication, or whatever else, whatever members are offering, and they are willing to provide at a discounted rate so that they will increase the sale. And in this case, the association or the chamber is the facilitator, the one that brings together the offer and the demand. And this is only valid for organizational members. So helping members do business among themselves. I think this is an interesting example. I have seen it in associations in the US. Perhaps there are other examples. Perhaps there are some of your organizations that are doing that. So if you have an example that you are implementing, please feel free to tell us in the chat. Let's look at some examples. Michael was promising more examples from Africa, so let's start with one from Ethiopia. The Addis Chamber of Commerce and Sectorial Association. This is an organization that has done, like I'm sure all of your organizations, many programs and services, and it had many initiatives to help members fare through the current situation, and they had a prominent role in disseminating information about the economic and pandemic recovery lately, because we've been talking for more than 3 months now about crisis, COVID-19, and now it's also a good time to speak about recovery, to show the members, to show the business community the way forward, and to encourage them to show to them that there is hope. And one of the things that the chamber has done, AXA, is it has developed a report on the pandemic's effect on the private sector, which is a good tool to both engage with members, but also with decision makers. And in partnership with the European Chamber of Commerce, it has developed a new series of a training programs on different topics, and you have on the screen the information about the specific topics. Once the companies complete the training, the European Chamber will confer to each participant an internationally accredited certification. So this can be, value added for those businesses. And one thing I want to say, this is a fee-based training. So companies have to pay in order to be able to access this training opportunity. The chamber, as I said, has done a lot of other interesting and very valuable programs, and disseminated a lot of information, and informed and educated the public about hygiene and safety rules, advertisements, spots on how companies can participate, companies and associations can participate in the fight against COVID-19. I thought this example of fee-based services, interesting, and perhaps it could be inspiring. Next one, please. Another example from the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Do we have anyone from Nigeria today with us? Yeah, we have Desmond, of course, Mr. Desmond. And okay, anybody else?
And Adi Kunle.
Okay, and Kunle. Hello, Kunle. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Great. So the Lagos Chamber of Commerce, they also have done a lot of interesting things. Like other chambers and associations, published a report about how the private sector in general and various sectors have been affected by the crisis, and use that as an advocacy tool to plead with the government for relief for businesses, especially tax relief. And one other thing that they did for the fee this time was they helped companies secure passes. This was for the company members who wanted to or needed to operate during the lockdown, and this was a source of income. I see that Kunle has a comment. Kunle, would you like to share something with us?
I think they were just raising their hand to say from Nigeria.
Oh, he's from Nigeria. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I see. Okay, so these passes, these permits have been extremely valuable for the company members, and this has also been a source of income for the chamber. And I'm sure that for not only for this chamber but for all chambers, other sources of income during this time have been the certificates of origin for exporting goods, and certificates of force majeure, when companies were no longer able to fulfill their obligations as stipulated by contracts. They went and got certificates of force majeure to cover to explain to their business partners why they are no longer able to provide the services or goods they committed to provide. I know that in many countries this is a stream of revenue for associations, and in the current context, a lot of certificates of force majeure have been issued, unfortunately. Another example that I would like to bring to your attention today is that of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, or KEPSA. One or two things that caught my attention. KEPSA has launched a partnership with a company that is probably the biggest online marketplace in Kenya. This partnership is in the form of cooperation to help companies go digital, to start selling online. And this was in the frame of a program called Digital Commerce Program. And the idea is to register businesses on the Jumia marketplace platform, and then also train them how to sell online, how to bring their products to customers who were during this time, during the lockdown, unable to go to shops and to buy directly from the providers. The Jumia platform boasts 4 million Kenyan visitors per month. So you can imagine the access that being on the platform can provide to company that offers products or services. And the platform offered to cut commissions for locally manufactured goods by 50%, and they are reducing the fee to just 1% for businesses that are enrolling through this program developed by CEPSA through the digital commerce program. So I thought this is a fantastic initiative and a great step towards going digital and expanding your customer base. Before, when everybody could travel, a certain number of customers were within reach. But now more and more are available because or thanks to technology. And one other thing that I thought was worth highlighting about CEPSA. This month, they released a document called Private Sector Protocol on Reopening the Economy, basically guidelines for safely reopening businesses in the post-pandemic period, let's say, with the guidelines for specific sectors such as agriculture, retail, education. So measures that guidance for companies that want to reopen safely in this period of time. How are we doing so far? Any questions so far? Any examples? Please let us know in the chat.
Yeah, we don't have any questions so far in the Q&A, but if anybody wants to jump in quickly and by raising your hand, please feel free. But at the same time, I would keep going, Carmen, and we'll stop in a couple slides for some Q&A.
All right, sure. So going, okay, great. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. Okay, going forward, I would like to suggest we look at programs and services from two angles. One of them is the demand. Of course, we are all aware of the need to understand what members and customers want, but also what are some of their challenges, especially in the context of the last few months and all the turbulence that has occurred. And of course, the more we know about our members and about our market, the better we are, the more successful we are. And I listed here a few tools. I'm sure you are familiar with these tools. I'm not going to go into details about this. And actually, I think at the end of last month, Grace, you led a webinar on surveying the impact of COVID-19 on businesses and associations. So I'm sure you spoke more in detail about these things. One thing I listed here some tools that can work very well in the online format. And some of them are free, as you know, but for the members who are in remote areas where is not good internet access, connectivity, of course, we always have the phone calls. Nothing beats the phone calls, and we have WhatsApp if we can reach our members by WhatsApp, if they prefer communication by WhatsApp. The idea is, irrespective of the tool, to learn about their interests, about their expectations, and to see to what extent we can address those. Then we can look also at it from the supply point of view. I sometimes, when I conduct training, sometimes I hear participants say that, no, we don't have competition. And I'm surprised. And then we go into more discussion. So tell me more about it. How is it that you are not, you don't have any competition? And so finally, you know, we come to some form of agreement that there is competition. Some of it is right here, right now, but there's also potential one. And my question to all of you now is, what do associations compete for when we are talking about the supply and competition? What are we competing with others for? What is at what is at stake? What is the element that we are competing for? Can you please write to us in the chat, or just tell us? Looking at your organizations and looking at your competitors, what are you competing for? Any ideas? The same members. Excellent. Thank you, Catherine. Absolutely. Yes, we are competing for the same members. Yes. Anything else? For government funding. Yes, definitely. Thank you, Lolia. Yes, absolutely. And yes, for donor funding. Right. Yeah. And I would commitment. Yes. Time and commitment. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Kunle. Yeah. And I would say associations also compete for attention in stakeholders. Yes, exactly. Stakeholders attention in the public space. Also for government attention. You know, why should they speak to you rather than your competitors, rather than other associations, about the issues that are relevant for the business environment or for your sector? You know, you are competing for attention, and the public space sometimes can be crowded. And another element to consider when we talk about supply is think about, why should they come to you? Why should they pay membership fee to you? What's in it for them? What makes your organization's offer special? What is your competitive advantage? How are your products or services better than your competitors? And here, perhaps you are already familiar with the concept of golden handcuffs and golden handcuff benefits. This is a business term, but I think it's very much applicable also to the nonprofit organizations. What are some of the benefits that associations provide that make them desirable and members almost cannot do without? And they are almost captive, if you like. They come back to you over and over again. And if you are a professional association, then probably one of the unique benefits that you provide to your members are in the form of certification. For instance, if you are in the accounting business, accountants need to go through training and to renew their accreditation or certification. So this is one of the golden handcuffs. Another idea, for instance, if you participate as an association in fairs and exhibitions, right now, even those moved online, but before and hopefully after COVID-19, when life resumes offline, exhibitions. If your association is renting a booth for your members, you are probably providing this to members, the access to this booth, and the cost for them is very, very low as compared to them going on their own and renting space, renting a booth and paying 100%. And for some companies, this can be, in some organizations, this can be an example of a golden benefit. Let's go on, please. Some questions that I invite you to consider related to your programs and services. The most important question, in my opinion, is the third one. Can you link all of your programs and services to the mission of the organization or a strategic objective? Because what we see is that sometimes organizations are so enthusiastic and they want to do everything and they want to be all things for their members, but the question is how connected are, how aligned are those with the mission and the strategic plan. And of course, the strategic plan now is also put aside, and we are thinking short term, 6 months, 3 months, 6 months. Nevertheless, perhaps it's a good reminder for all of us that everything that we do should be aligned with the mission and or a strategic objective, which in turn it's also aligned with the mission. Can we please go to the next one? Just a few words about the process for creating and implementing a new service. Can you please tell us how is this happening? How is this flow happening in your organization? Can you please write in the chat or just tell us in one sentence? Who has the initiative? How this is happening? Anybody?
Carmen, when you ask that, do you mean that like who is driving the agenda of the organization? Or in terms of
I mean,
when
the organization introduces a new service or creates a new service for members and for customers, who has the initiative? What is the process?
Okay.
Who has
and
the
so
initiative? Who approves or doesn't approve? Or okay, Eunice is asking for a soft copy. You mean for the presentation, I guess. Yes. Yeah. If we are talking about the presentation, yes. Eunice.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So if we are, again, it depends on what type of organization we are. If we are talking about a staff-driven organization, then of course the idea can come from members who come and say we need this, or from staff of the association who notices, yes, with the staff. Yes, thank you, Kunle. Absolutely, yes, it starts with the staff, but it needs board approval before implementation. Absolutely, yes. That's the regular process, indeed. Now, if you are a staff-driven organization, hello, Claire. If you are a staff-driven organization, then of course the staff is responsible for the implementation. And sometimes you also get on board technical experts or advisors if needed for some very specific technical issues. And this is all good. The implementation usually goes on smoothly. What happens is that sometimes you run the risk of not having too much of an ownership on the from the members. On the other hand, what you can have in a volunteer-driven organization, the implementation of the programs happens mostly through committees. And of course, the committees are made up of mostly volunteers, perhaps a board member who is chairing the committee. And then you have some members as volunteers, and perhaps you also have one staff person in the organization who is participating in the committee. And this committee approach, let's say, has the advantage that it creates more ownership among the members of, and of course it facilitates a free exchange of ideas among them. But also, you know, think about members, volunteers who are not very, sometimes who don't understand very well all the internal operations, and so there can be a bit of a slower or bumpier road in the implementation process. But anyway, as Kunle said, in principle everything should go through the board approval, and then whether it's volunteers or staff who is volunteers or staff who is going to implement the program and service, and then it goes back to members where it initially started from. So it's a round process, circular. It goes in circle. Other, yes?
Carmen, I was going to ask if you could maybe provide an example or speak more about like a member-driven service, if a member or members collectively are making known something that they desire or feel that they could use from their association.
Yeah, so an example of a volunteer-driven organization. I have in mind an example from the state of Georgia, Tbilisi. I mentioned last time that I've been mentoring some organizations from Georgia, and one of them has only part-time staff. So almost all of the work, not all of it, but almost all of it is done by volunteers, meaning board members and members. They have a couple of committees, and also they have an annual conference. This is a sector-based association, and they have a big conference which is very important for their industry, and they engage volunteers to help prepare that conference. So just a part-time staff, and everything else, it's board and volunteer members. All right. Next, please. Yeah. So we have some programs, and what do we do with them? Best practices say that it's good to look and analyze programs and services perhaps once a year, if not more often. to make sure that the offering that you have is still relevant and up to date. And I think that these days now is a good time to audit your portfolio and to make decisions accordingly. And why I'm saying this? Because in this environment with so many changes and turbulences, organizations have adapted and are adapting to what's going on. And I'm sure that all of your organizations have introduced new things, but you are also keeping the old ones. And the question is, which ones do we continue with moving forward in the recovery phase? Which of the programs and services we had before COVID-19 are still relevant and needed today and in the next months and years? And in this evaluation, I think there are a number of elements to consider. What was our target? What did we expect when we introduced that service? If we remember, maybe it was a long time ago. What is it that we have today? How are we? How is it performing? How many customers? How many members? How many customers are still using that particular service? How often? Is it bringing us any money, or is it just the cost? And of course, these are all objective elements to consider. There are also subjective factors. What you can think about what we perceive as to be effective or not. And I'm going to come back to the financial evaluation, if we can please go to that one, and we'll come back to this one in a minute. So what I would like to propose in terms of objective evaluation, financial evaluation, is a formula that I think is relevant. It was developed by Mark McCord, an association expert, and my first mentor when I started working with CIPE a long time ago. And the formula contains several elements. What are the hard costs? What are the direct financial expenditures that are related to your program or service? In addition to soft costs, perhaps staff time, perhaps materials, any other indirect expenditures that are related to your to the production and implementation of that program and service. And adding these costs gives you a total monetary investment. On the other hand, you have the return on investment. And here we have the direct revenue, which is the fee for service. How many customers buy that service and how much are we making on that? And indirect revenue. If you remember last time, we had an example from Jeffers from the African Society of Association Executives. He shared several ideas with us, and one of them was, he said that members are paying a lot. I mean, they are paying because they want to support the association to make sure the association continues. And he said that they have got some new members on board. So this indirect revenue is the membership revenue that you get due to the fact that the organization has program services, that particular program or service, not necessarily the fee for service, but more people are joining and they are paying membership fee because they want to be in the association. Okay, and if you add these two elements, you have your return on investment. Now the question is, if your return on investment, if what you are making in other words, is greater than what you are spending to produce, to deliver that particular program on service. And if the answer is yes, it is higher, then you can determine how much higher, and you can determine what is the potential for financial sustainability of that program and service. And I know from working with a lot of associations, I know that this is hard to calculate because it's hard to determine exactly the soft costs. And sometimes, you know, members join for a variety of reasons. We don't know exactly if they joined for this particular service or, you know, because of the reputation of the organization or for other reasons. However, I must say, if you can calculate this, I think this is fantastic. And of course, this is just one formula. There are many other ways to look at whether a service or a program is financially sustainable. And if we can go back to the previous one, please. Of course, when you look at all these factors, objective and some subjective factors, you can decide what you want to do, if you want to continue or not, if you want to drop it or to outsource it, and so on. Testing new ideas. Now is a good time because things are moving and you have the opportunity to introduce new things just for a little bit, for a little while, to see how they go. What is the market response? If the response is not satisfactory, then of course it will be easy to drop it. But it's also an opportunity to improve. I think this crisis, COVID-19, provides us the opportunity to improve some of the things that we were doing before. In this audit, I spoke a lot about objective criteria for evaluation. But there are also subjective factors to consider, and I'm going to come back to them in a little bit. Let's go back and let's continue, and let's just stop for one moment and hear from you. How are we doing? Questions, comments, complaints? Anybody? No complaints. Thank you, Bruna. Okay, no complaints. That's good. Anybody who has an idea or an example or a comment? All right. Thank you, Kunle. Thank you. Great. Okay. Good. So, question besides how are we doing? Okay, great, Claire. Okay. Can you please tell us more? Would you like to share more about how you are adding value to your members? Oh, I'm sorry. Then perhaps you can write to us in the chat box, if it's all right. Thank you. Okay. So how is anybody else? How are you adding value to your members during these turbulent times? And silence.
Yeah, I think we can keep going, and then we'll, yeah.
Okay, okay, Eunice. Aha, organizing webinars, says Kunle. Yes, okay. Let me see. A WhatsApp group and call center to connect and exchange business ideas. That's fantastic, Eunice. This is fantastic. Excellent, thank you. Claire says we are communicating with our members every day. Yes, sense of belonging. Yes, okay. I'm going to come back to this in a minute. And organizing webinars, small group online sessions for members to cross-pollinate and connect quickly, yes. Lolia says support members for funding intervention and putting them in contact with the different agency. Okay, and sensitizing them on COVID-19 prevention. Excellent. Great, thank you very much. These are excellent ideas and initiatives. Absolutely. I like what you said, Claire and Eunice, about communicating daily and with on WhatsApp and with by phone, online sessions. Yes, okay. Discussing post-COVID recovery, large event platforms. Okay, excellent, Claire. Getting the owners to offer member discounts and set up for WhatsApp groups. Excellent, yes. Yeah, excellent. These are all great examples. Communicating with your members, and also it's time to communicate about what you are doing. I would like to suggest, perhaps you are already doing this, but I feel like I really need to stress this, collecting testimonials and using them, putting testimonials to a good use. If your members have said something good about what you have done for them, please record that. It's okay to move words. It's not okay to add words. If you want to move words a little bit in their testimonial to make it, presentable to everybody, these testimonials are very, very important. They help you tell your story. They help you show the value that you have provided. I would like to bring you an example from Nigeria. Yes, and this also helps strengthen the association voice with government, because you can say, look what we have done for our community, look what we have done for the business, what we have done for our sector. So by collecting your members' feedback, by collecting their concerns and recommendations, you are in a better position to engage with the government and to talk about challenges, to talk about recovery, to talk about solutions moving forward. As I said, I have an example from Nigeria, which I think is great. Talking about keeping track of what you do for your members and for the community. A foundation in Nigeria called Ajoke Aistat Afolabi has received a grant, and they bought 20 sewing machines for ladies who were affected economically by the pandemic. And so the testimonials that they received, the feedback they received from these ladies who are the beneficiaries, that's fantastic. And that's a fantastic tool to use to show the value to potential donors, to show the value to your other stakeholders, including to public officials when you engage in advocacy. And Eunice is saying that they are already conducting surveys on the effect of COVID-19 on business and how to survive and recover from incurred loss. This is great. Yeah. Talking about, let's go on to the next one. Talking about how to add and communicate value. I'd like to give you a couple of examples. One of them is from an American association. This is a Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors. What they have is on their website, they have this lovely table, which is not a regular table, it's an interactive one. Basically, you click, they have the list, their entire list of programs and services, everything they provide. Everything, every little service and product they provide is there. And as you go through the list, you can click. If you are interested in certain services, you click. This one is the one that I'm interested in. And you click on several of them. And at the end of the list, you have a button that is called calculate. It's a calculator. So basically, you calculate how much it would cost if you were buying these services, not as a member, but as a non-member, as another stakeholder. And you get an amount which is probably significantly higher than what is the dues for a year. And the idea is to show the value of being a member in this association of realtors. Okay, and you can make a simple calculation. Okay, our members are business people and they are business oriented. So how much are they saving if they are members versus how much it would cost them to buy these services, one by one as a non-member. So this is one way of not only adding value, but also determining and communicating the value to your members. Of course, you are looking at it from a transactional point of view. Another example that I have, which I saw, and unfortunately it's no longer available for some reason, a Romanian Chamber of Commerce that I have collaborated with a while ago had on their website a list of all their services and products, and thank you, Michael. And they had next to each program and service, they had the two amounts. One was for members, one was for non-members. So you could see how much you were saving if you were a member of the chamber versus a non-member. So this very simple list was meant to, of course, encourage members to join or to remain with the organization. And this was a simple way of calculating value. How much are we earning or saving just by paying our dues? You know, this is again a transactional perspective, a transactional approach to value and to member experience. I would like to bring a different perspective, which in fact some of you have already highlighted in the chat box. Eunice mentioned that and they have a call center to connect and exchange business ideas. And Claire said, people in Africa need a huge sense of belonging right now. Claire, I agree with your huge sense of belonging. I think in these troubled times, everybody has a huge sense of a need of belonging, and being in touch, communicating daily or very frequently, weekly with your members, you are also adding value to them as human beings, as you are adding value and you are becoming or have become already an integral part, not only to their business, but also to their career, and I would say to their daily life. So it's not only transactional, it's not just business, it's also relational. And you are responding to their human needs for belonging, emotional needs. Okay, that's great, and thank you. Anne says we have a WhatsApp group and people share their services and products, and yes, you are helping them sell their services. This is excellent. Yeah, indeed. So adding and communicating value, both in terms of tangible benefits, discounts, savings, and so on, but also in terms of relational, intangible benefits, meeting their need for belonging. Somebody's thinking of them and taking care of them in these times. Okay, I would like to, we have I guess about 10 minutes, and I would like to just bring very quickly a few examples and a few ideas, and then I hope we'll have also a bit of time for Q&A. If we can go to the next one, please. Thank you, Michael. Okay, great. So the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry is another example which I thought was worth bringing up. They have produced a series of guides to assist businesses during the pandemic and the recovery phase, and you can see here some of their guides. They also conducted a telethon to raise money. They raised close to $300,000 to support the COVID-19 response, and they used this to help them renovate a sanatorium for patients who were infected with COVID-19. What I found very interesting in their experience is that rather than give the money directly to the government, they partnered with the government and selected projects from the list of government projects that the government prioritized for this time, and they used they developed procurement themselves and used member businesses for labor and supplies. So this was the way of participating in the community and official efforts, but it was also using and helping businesses of their members, to continue to operate and a place to have work to do during this time. I thought this was really exciting. Another example, which again I think is original and worth highlighting, is the one from the Tanzania Horticultural Association. This is a huge association in Tanzania that brings together everybody in the basically the producers of fruits and veggies and spices in Tanzania. And what they did is in April, they struck a deal with Ethiopian Airlines. And through this deal, they have three flights per week to take their agricultural products to different customers, to different markets in Europe, in the US, and in the Arabic Peninsula. So this was very, very needed and very important because the flights were disrupted and because of the pandemic, and they were no longer able to reach the markets, to reach the customers with their products. So this was a lifeline to their members. And of course, this was a partnership with the government in Tanzania, with donors, with a company, with the aviation service. But this has, I think this is a fantastic example. And last example that I wanted to bring to your attention is the COMESA Business Council, which brings together companies and associations in the region of Eastern and Southern Africa. What I thought was interesting is they developed recommendations to address policy facilitation and trade issues related to cross-border trade, especially in these times when borders were closed. It was very difficult to move goods from one place to the other, and also truck drivers had sometimes challenges at the border. So they worked along these lines and developed these guidelines for trade, for movement of goods and services across borders at this time. And they also enriched their collection of market pointers, which were basically studies on the market of various agricultural products and the potential for export on various countries of these products. Moving forward, these are some offline and online examples. What about your associations? How did you adapt? Did you move any events? You mentioned webinars, several of you. You mentioned focus WhatsApp groups for communication. How did it work? What did your members, what did your customers respond? Anyone? If you have an example or an experience that you think is worth telling us about? Okay, recruitment interview was conducted online, says Lolia. Is this for association staff? If you want to turn on your mic, please feel free to speak with us. Okay, so recruitment. Okay.
Carmen, this could be a good time to just summarize the webinar, and we can close up. And as we do that, if anybody has final questions or a comment, feel free to either put it in the Q&A or raise your hand.
Cool. We now have a larger number of participants because of ease of doing it from the comfort of their homes. Excellent. So moving online was brought you more participants. Excellent. Great. Anybody else? Anybody else? Another idea, another example? Claire says we've moved every event online and it's working very well. Okay, for the first time we've been able to connect people from 7 nations in the same space, and it saved us much money in comparison with organizing physical events. Also, we were able to introduce our members to partners in Scotland. This is great. Excellent, Claire. Michael, I think I would like to give my time for summary to the participants and invite them to continue to bring these examples, because I think these are fantastic examples, and we can all learn from each other. Okay. More active participation of members, says Lolia, throughout the state and to national discussion. And Eunice says issuance of pass to members to be able to move their products from source to the market. So you did this online. Great. These are fantastic examples. Yeah. Anybody else? Claire says we are also hosting masterclasses and workshops online starting June 30. Normally we'd have to pay for a speaker, but most people are not offering their expertise for free. Okay, great. So the crisis is also, the COVID-19 is also bringing opportunities, not only challenges. This is fantastic. Okay, yes, absolutely. Yeah, so I think you mentioned the opportunities for engagement. You mentioned the greater participation. And I heard an example from another association. In normal times when they were meeting face to face, they would have a couple of 100 participants. But when they moved their event online, they had 3 times more. So, you know, as Kuna said, in the comfort of their homes, people have been more available to participate and no travel costs. Yes, exactly. Okay, fantastic. Are there any questions? Turkana Chamber, welcome our new members of WhatsApp, conducting a survey online, yes, on the effect of COVID-19 on businesses. Great. And trainings are now cheaper to organize. Okay. No food and beverages, no conference room, just a subscription to an online platform. Yes, absolutely. So what I would like to mention in my closing remarks is that this is very, very encouraging, and I'm very happy to see that there are opportunities that your organizations are using, taking advantage of in these times. And I think this is absolutely the way to go, and the way to conduct our business and to engage with members and customers. I think I like the fact that some of you talked about recovery. It's a good time indeed to talk about recovery, to talk about hope, to talk about what next. And your members probably need this kind of approach and this kind of talking more than now more than ever. I would like to invite you to continue. If you have a comment or a question which you were a bit shy of asking now in front of everybody else, you can contact me by email or on LinkedIn, and I will be happy to answer the question if I know the answer. If not, probably I will make up something to respond to your email and to your question. I would like to thank you very much for your participation, for sharing all these fantastic examples, and also for being patient with us at the beginning when we had a bit of a technical challenge. I am going to write my email address in the chat box, and I look forward to staying in touch. I would also like to thank the CIPE Africa team for the invitation and for helping us meet today online. And I will look forward to hearing from you, and also to connect with you again in a few weeks' time in the third part of our webinar series. Thank you so much, everybody. And I look forward to staying in touch. Stay safe, and good luck with everything you are doing for your members and for your communities.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you for joining us. And as Carmen mentioned, she'll be back with us for a third part of this series that will be more of an Ask the Expert and like a conversational Q&A session. So I also just want to quickly, before everybody leaves, encourage you to take our survey. Most of you should have gotten a link to this survey in a few separate emails. It closes on Friday, and we'd love to hear what you have to say about how COVID-19 has impacted your association or chamber. And please share this with your networks as well. And we'll hope that all the data used from these surveys can be used towards CIPE creating a better response to COVID-19. And then finally, join us next week for another webinar with Rachel Mutoga, the former Deputy CEO of CEPSA, who will be speaking about private sector advocacy, which will be incredibly important as these conversations of reopening and recovery really begin to gain momentum. So we're excited to have her with us as well. So, but thank you, Carmen, for joining us. Thank you all of you for persevering through the technical difficulties, as Carmen said, and we're excited to see you next week. Thank you. All right, goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.